Welcome back. In this conversation with Richard Osborne from UK Business Forums, we're talking about simply that business, being a part, as it is, of the Business Data Group. Richard, UKBF, UK Business Forums, existed in an earlier form as you were building up your business. Then you got rid of it. Now it's back. Why did you want to buy it back?
The company that we sold UK Business Forums to, or I sold it to back in the day, back in 2007, they'd actually contacted me for a few years asking whether I would be interested in buying back UK Business Forums. Reason being is, as an organisation, they'd focused on the accountancy sector, and UK Business Forums, which was an SME community, wasn't part of their future plans, to put it bluntly. However, at that time, I couldn't justify the financial investment to actually purchase and reacquire UK Business Forums back. I have shareholders now and a board of directors, and I had to be able to justify to them the acquisition. As much as I'd love to and wanted to, I need to build a business case. COVID and the pandemic changed a lot of businesses, and Business Data Group was affected by that and highlighted our reliance as a business on just start-up newly formed companies. And at that point, a light bulb went on, and I thought, there's an opportunity here. Emotionally, I would love to have bought UK Business Forums back much earlier. They do have a warm place in my heart. Lots of happy memories of how UK Business Forums helped me and the friends I've made there and people I'm still in contact with. But now I saw an opportunity where we could expand Business Data Group's product portfolio to include not just companies that are starting up, but also companies that are in their early life cycle, or in the sort of SME sector. So it provided a more rounded, sort of more resilient business.
I wanted to ask you about that because UK Business Forums, which originally was the major project, became a subsidiary because BDG, Business Data Group, is now the parent. You've just said you have a warm place in your heart for UKBF, UK Business Forums. People by people. You are in many ways the parent of that business, and all of the businesses within the forums are run by people. So how people-centric is UK Business Forums as a company?
Well, UK Business Forums, it's not a company in its own right. But it is a community, and just by the word community, it is people. They, when you look through the community aspect of UK Business Forums and you see people talking to each other, they're not just talking about how do I do my VAT return. They're talking about my business is suffering a little bit, or simple things you might ask friends like, it's about time I replace my TV, what do you recommend? So there is social elements within there.
It's that personal.
Yeah. So it's not so binary as I want to, how do I do my accounts? How do I set my company up? How do I get a shareholders agreement? It's not just that. It is, everybody, as you just said, businesses are run by people. They're all people. And when you have a community together, wherever that is, whether it's down the pub or whether it's on a platform like UKBF, you have natural conversations as well.
UK Business Forums, as you say, being the community, there's any number of conversations going at any one time. I was looking at the site for UK Business Forums yesterday. Forums have been around for a long time. You can get forums for boat owners, car owners, home development operators, things like that. How invested within UK Business Forums are its members? What does it fulfill for them, in your opinion?
It will vary. There's variations, but when you narrow it down, there are two particular types of members or people within the community. You do have what's a common term, the lurkers. So these
The
are
lurkers.
the lurkers. There is a term actually within social media which is lurking. It's not a very nice term to use, but it doesn't sound a nice term, but it is. It is what it is.
Sure.
And these are people who will view and watch and just find it interesting to observe the conversations, and will learn through digesting the information as it's going through, and occasionally may contribute or put a comment in. So you'll have people that may have been members for many, many years, but you'll only see a comment from them once every several months or so. Then you have members who are in the community daily. And UK Business Forums is a social media platform ultimately. So, and that's no different from whether it's Twitter, Facebook or anything like that. You'll have people that will respond, comment, engage every day, several times a day. And UK Business Forums has members like that.
Do you tend to find that the conversations that people have online as part of that community, do they polarize into specific areas? Where is the greatest traffic on UKBF at the moment?
I think because it's easier, the greatest traffic generally is either in the general business forum. So this is, I've got a general business question and they'll go in and they'll ask their question or pose a quandary, and people engage in that because it's quicker and easier just to go in and post something in general, that's it, done.
So how do I increase my sales? How do I go about finding the right people to work in my company? Those sorts of generic areas.
Yeah. And some of those could well be moved into, so how do I increase my sales, could be moved into sales and marketing, because there is an area specifically for sales and marketing. But generally is where most people are coming, and it's just the nature of just the ease of just making a post and it's done. Timeout's busy because that's the social element. So this is the relationship building. This is people who are talking about the day-to-day life of whatever's going on in their life, without the need for, having to be around the business, because, no play makes a boring day.
How far is UKBF as a business driven by its members in that case? Because if they're asking questions and the answer is coming back out of the community, that's great. That's the social media platform. But you must be taking a helicopter view of what's being talked about as the administrator within the business.
Yeah.
How far is UKBF being driven by the needs of its members?
Entirely, I'd say. There's two parts. So we've got future plans to expand what UKBF is from what it is today. But as it is right at this moment, it's the actual engagement, the conversations, the threads, it is the community. And all that I am ultimately is a custodian of that platform to facilitate that to happen. It has its own overhead costs, the database and the servers that it sits on, and then we have sort of investment into growing awareness and the marketing the site itself, because for us, the more people we drive through to the community for the engagement, the more people there are for other people to network with. Ultimately, whatever platform you use for your business, UKBF needs to provide a business benefit for being there. So although these, the members that are on there are asking questions and getting answers, those asking questions are getting value because they're getting answers to those questions. Those who are answering the questions are getting their business in front of these people they're answering the questions for. So if you have an account, a new business owner goes into the community and says, I'm confused, I don't know how to do my VAT return, can somebody tell me what I put in box 6? And an accountant answers that question. They answer in that question, and then alongside their answer is their business information, their website address, their phone number, and with a little, if you're still stuck, give me a call. That accountant is giving that answer. That person can go away and thank you very much. But if they're stuck and they need support, they're going to remember the accountant answered that question there and then and contact them. I know so many examples of where that's happened across different industries.
Let me take you back to the original UKBF. Contrast it with the current UKBF. We're talking within an environment where we've seen the economy on its knees thanks to the pandemic. We've seen Brexit taking place. We're talking ahead of increases in corporation tax. We're talking in advance of national insurance going up. The needs and the strictures that sit on business owners' shoulders are getting ever more sophisticated. So are the needs that people are talking about on UKBF, are they different to when you first owned that part of the business?
There are small nuances, well, small little differences, the technology, changes in technology, the when UKBF first started, for example, sticking with the term accounting as an example, if you wanted to do your accounting, online cloud accounting never existed. Now, one of the forerunners in that industry actually started cash flow, as an example, on UK business forums, or as part of UK business forums, and grew it up through there. But the actual challenges of doing your accounts haven't changed. So the fundamental needs of running a business and doing a business, create a product or service, sell that product or service, make a profit, pay your taxes, cycle begins again, that doesn't change. So the overall challenges don't change, but the way in which they delivered evolves over time, primarily because of changing circumstances or changing technology.
Is there a seasonality to the way in which the platform is used? And I don't mean necessarily spring, summer, autumn, winter. I mean more to the point, when do people tend to come onto the forum, and in what sort of numbers? What sort of size of contribution do you get on the forum from one day to the next, or from 1 hour to the next? Is it influenced by news?
There is an influence on news. So recently, HGV driver shortage has been across the news, and that's been quite a big topic of debate. But seasonal, there is a there is a spring, summer, autumn, winter season. So the community, the site itself is busier at the start of the year than it is at the end of the year.
Filing time for tax, for instance.
Potentially. There is also, as the weather gets better, people are more, well, forget COVID lockdowns, but COVID lockdown, it was busy quite a lot. But generally, if you look over, because we've got the stats, when I took over UK Business Forums again, we've got all the stats going back to 2008. And looking over every year going back, there is that gradual build up, boom towards the start of the year, gradual reduction in activity towards the end of the year, and then you start the year again, boom, it's back up again. I can only think there is a lot of like accounting year end kind of periods down there. I know as Business Data Group, we know, because we have this stats anyway, that there is boom periods of people starting up in business towards the start of the year. There is particular spikes, so around sort of the new year, and we can put it down to, had a great Christmas holiday, New Year's resolution, I'm going to start my own business. That kind of mentality.
Sure, yeah.
You then have a lot of businesses starting up around sort of the April time, tax year, read into that as you will. And then at the end of the summer holidays, there's a small little uplift as well.
We're talking also at the end of furlough. And I guess a lot of people may be reconsidering their options. Typically, when people are made redundant, if there is a redundancy check, they will invest the redundancy check into a business because somebody tells that person they're good at a certain function. It could be motorcycle maintenance, whatever it might be. There's a risk there, because if you haven't got a genuine business, you could end up losing that redundancy check very quickly. Again, if someone invests by being a member of the UKBF and into the forums, you could get priceless information on how to set up in business and reduce the degree of risk of that investment.
Absolutely. But I would add a word of caution there, that if you ask, we did a small little video as UKBF, basically saying don't ask your friends and family for business advice, and it is so true, because if you go to so you get your redundancy check, we go through that scenario, you get your redundancy check, you've got a load of money, and you enjoy tinkering with motorbikes and you fix a few bikes and work on them for your friends. You think there could be a business here. You go to your friends and you think, do you know what, I'm just going to open up a workshop, get the big signs put up there, and I'm going to have a big motorcycle maintenance business. You go to your loved ones and they turn around and say, yeah, you're really good at that. That's where your heart is. You go for it. That's not good business advice. That is your loved ones supporting you. Coming onto UKBF and asking a question like that, you have to be prepared to get honest feedback.
Yes.
And that is actually more important than any feedback you get for your loved ones. And this feedback's going to be, what's the passing trade? Have you actually got enough money? Your lease on a building like that is going to be extortionate. You'll run out of your redundancy money in 9 months.
Yeah.
What about your marketing plan? If you thought about your marketing plan, how many staff, how are you going to staff it if you go on holiday? And they'll start asking all these awkward questions of you.
But crucial. And if you're receptive to that, then, because ultimately the people who are giving these answers aren't being awkward. They don't want you to fail. It's real world.
It's real world. And they're telling you things that you need to hear and you need to think about, because they actually, everybody, other business owners want other people to be successful.
Let's talk about traffic. You built up UKBF in its initial form. Ultimately, it ended up giving you the springboard to develop Business Data Group. And now it sits underneath Business Data Group. So we can talk about that later on. At one stage, UKBF was indulging in a heck of a lot of traffic on an hourly, daily, weekly basis. The company that took UKBF off your hands ultimately found that it didn't have a future. Did UKBF therefore suffer on the vine somewhat? And are you doing a bit of a rebuild at the moment?
I'll pick you up on one term there. He said felt didn't have a future. It was a change of strategy for their organisation. So not so much that UKBF itself didn't have a future, but it didn't fit within
under their ownership. Yeah.
So for about 2 to 3 years, it was left on the waters without a sail, just plodding along by itself, with the community effectively running it. That did have a knock-on effect for the community and how the community felt anyway, as you'd imagine. It was like a pub without a landlord.
It felt abandoned.
Yes. And that's some of the feedback that I've had since taking it over. At its height, it had around about 50,000 people a day using the site. And that was when it was really intrinsic within the previous owner's sort of business model, and a lot of investment was going on. That's where I'm driving to take it back again.
Okay.
At the moment, it has about 10,000 people a day accessing the site. It has sort of hundreds of conversations going on every day. And when you talk about sort of like 10,000 people a day, you think, oh, that's really quite impressive. And it is, but it's not where it can be. And it's not where it was. When we first took it over in March, you have a whole settling period of technology. So we've had to do a whole load of technology updates, which are still going on before we can start building it. And we're probably getting to that sort of stage now. Hence part of the conversation I'm having now is before we can start making that transition into what UKBF can be going forward. I had in my head I can picture the future. The bit that is always with anybody who works in technology is say when you start thinking of all these things that have to be done, you think it's a big journey.
There is strength to be had in numbers. You're talking about 50,000 as was to 10,000 as now is. What's it going to take to make that leap? Because people will be consuming this conversation probably online. Is it word of mouth reputation? Is it a question of evangelism from people who are members on the site right now, on the platform, in the community, saying you should be part of this? Because everybody knows people who could be part of the overall building of a business voice, and that in turn could be quite a force for anybody taking notice of it, like government or HMRC, for instance.
Well, you mentioned government, HMRC, so the future is UKBF can be and can support small business owners. There will be a point, now we do have some large companies that do contribute and get involved in the community on UKBF. Mm-hmm. One of them in my mind straight away, quite a significant telecoms organisation. So there are big companies on there, and it forms, in fact the CEO of the organisation comes along, and I suppose there's an element of, you know, just sharing knowledge, and an element of it supports the business growth themselves. But ultimately, there becomes a point for the majority of owners of UKBF where their business dynamic, their business organisation would change. So the focus is small business primarily. Mm-hmm.
But that's a big part of the economy.
It is a massive part of the economy. I think it's like 95% or something along those sort of lines. So we're talking millions and millions. The scope is huge. There are lots of social media platforms out there if you just want to shout your message out. Mm. But there are very few social media platforms that provide a manageable way to engage in conversation and to knowledge share. And that's where UKBF comes in as a difference as a community. You then also have, there's lots of sites out there that offer a little bit of this, a little bit of that, blogs, things like that, which share a bit of business advice. But taking UKBF and bringing them two together, where you have your business guides and knowledge sharing of information, and then you have the community. I think ultimately it's my job to make sure that anybody who comes to UKBF as a business owner gets value for money in a very sort of rhetoric sense, because you can come along for free, mm-hmm. but gets value for time, actually, I use that term, value for time for being part of a member of UKBF. You come along, you contribute within the community, you read the guides, you contribute guides, you share, you knowledge share, and it's my job to get people to see your business, to see what you do.
So from going back to something that you said a few minutes ago, from talking about what kind of a TV somebody could buy, or let's say a monitor for a computer, you could also be influencing government policy in the future because of the scale of the community and the voice that it's got and the volume of the voice it's got. Is that a hidden agenda for UKBF? Do you want to be managing the market for the SME voice in the Palace of Westminster? Is that something you'd like to do?
It's not a hidden agenda because I've openly discussed it in the community.
It's a stated agenda?
Yeah. So okay. I'm sure you can imagine when the news goes out that Aussie has reacquired UKBF, and some of the members that are on there have never heard of me. Some of the members on there remember me from days gone, and it's like, well, you know, why have you done that? And then some of them have gone, you're crazy, and some of them have gone, great to have you back. But they all have the question, why? Mm-hmm. Why would you buy a forum? And my answer is because I see more than a forum. I see a forum today, and and going back 15 years, a forum on its own was fine, and it grew to be quite significant. Moving forward and evolving, it will be, and it is more than a forum. A forum and the community is one part of a bigger service to business.
But as we also found in previous conversations, which people can view for themselves, either in sequence or otherwise, you are heavily invested in UKBF. If it wasn't for UKBF, your life might have been very, very different indeed. You really do have a parental engagement with this part of your business.
I do, and it's sad but also reassuring to see that I'm not alone. Even over the past few months since taking UKBF over, there have been a number of businesses, quite a few, that have come into the community anonymously and saying, I've got nowhere to turn. I'm in a hole, I'm in trouble, I don't know what to do. And the community there have come and supported these people, talked them through the choices and options they've got for them, because these people have seen they've got nowhere to go. So I remember being in that situation more than once, between 2003 and 2007. And I see it still happening now, and it is affecting other people. There was a possibility that the previous owners had nowhere in their business to put UKBF, that it could have just had the plug pulled and just be gone. And I needed, as I said earlier, I needed to have a business case to reacquire them, but also I couldn't let that happen. It helps so many people. It just does.
And that's the power of social media. That is the power of community. That is the power of kindred spirits. Yeah. You want to build back to 50,000 and then beyond to 1 million. You have the roadmap to 1 million. Yeah. You're sitting there in the corporate cloth.
Oh, yes.
It's the first time we've seen you in it,
yeah.
in front of the camera. You have also talked all the way through this conversation in terms of UKBF rather than UK Business Forums, which is where I started. Yeah. So there's a new brand that is starting to emerge. Is that part of the roadmap?
It's a very subtle brand change, because when you speak within the community itself, or when you speak more widely about UK Business Forums, it has for quite some time always just been abbreviated to UKBF. A few times UKBF or UK Business Forums just refer to its forums. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to achieve what I hope and plan and believe we will achieve, driving UKBF forward for the next few years, it needs to be recognised that the community aspect, which ultimately is the forums, is a vital and important part of the platform overall, but it needs to be more than just a forum. And that is an expression that has been said to me by a couple of community members within UKBF. They said it's just a forum. And so I stick with that, and that's as a term, it has to be and will be more than just a forum. Part of that, although very subtle, is just to formalise the branding as UKBF. So as we're upgrading the technology and we're bringing more features to the platform, part of that transition will be adopting UKBF as a brand formally.
And do you see the economy as it now stands helping UKBF, given that there may well be a lot of people looking to get into business, looking to streamline their business, looking to get used to new working practices, where therefore the platform could help them?
I do see that. Our challenge for the next few months is getting the name out there. And that's what, as a company, as myself and colleagues, BDG as a whole, are heavily investing in lots of activities to get our name out there. It's great also, some of the moderators, some of the team members are also behind this. One of the moderators has volunteered to run monthly London networking events for UKBF, and one of our members is happy to sponsor these events. And this is all like the community behind and supporting everything that we're doing. So it's lovely to see, but it's a big job. And yes, I know firsthand, and I see it happening in the community already. It pretty much doesn't matter what business challenge you have. There's people who've come across it before and they share their experience. Businesses, new business owners, established business owners coming on the platform will get the help that they need if they know that UKBF exists. And that's our biggest job for the next few months.
Back under new management, but actually back under the original management that took it to where it was. And who knows where it's going to be in the future. Richard, really good to have talked to you over the course of the last few weeks. What a journey you've been on. What a journey the business has been on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So, UK Business Forums, becomes UKBF. My thanks to Richard Osborne for sharing his life story and the life story of the business as it now stands. You can see the brand, you can see the future, and it's been a pleasure to have you with us for this conversation. There are others to come, you never know. We could be talking to you next.